Good evening. My name is Dan Stafford, and I'm the host of Midwestern Geek in Cali. And I know it's been a little while since I've been on the air with you folks, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why that is. I've been doing nothing but work in school for the last several months. I'm trying to push through and finish up my last two server classes for the original program that I signed up to school for back in February of 18. I'm trying to wrap everything up by the end of December this year. So getting pretty close. I'm getting ready to wrap up the second to last server class, hopefully by the end of this month, and then finish the last server class right around Christmas time. That's what I'm aiming for. This is episode 98 of Midwestern Geek in Cali, and I'll do my best to get at least one episode out a month while I'm working on school. But no promises because I'm really under the gun to hit the books. And I'm also teaching 40 or so veterans IT at the same time, stuff I've already gone through and studied. So I've got a lot on my hands, and it's keeping me real busy. So let's get into tonight's episode. We're going to cover a few interesting things. I've got one topic in particular that I want to cover fairly deeply, and then I've got another one that's kind of fun and cool. So we'll get to it here. Hang tight. All right, a little bit of infinity screen. Always got to have some of that. Hang on. Okay, a little stop at the blog site. This is at www.midwesterngeekincali.com. Yes, that will drop you into a blogger site. Um, this is where you can catch all my prior episodes, or at least the ones that are still available online. I will eventually get a lot of my early podcast episodes converted over to video and put those up as well. You can also find me on YouTube, Midwestern Geek in Cali. Plenty of stuff there. Probably my most popular episode would be episode 94, Contact in the Desert 2019, which was really a fun time. I do love to cover conventions, Alien Con, not as much traffic, but well worth a look. And then let's get on to some of the stories here. FYI, too, you can always look over on the right-hand side, hit the Geek links, and take a look. And we've got some cool sites there for you. And also some of the other places where you can find Midwestern Geek in Cali. Now, that one is going to have to go. I'll get rid of the Google Plus link a little bit later. These down here are some of my certifications. This one is the most recent one that I've got. Server Pro Manage and Administer from Test Out. This is preparing for the Microsoft certification that goes along with it. The Microsoft Manage and Administer. I've got exam pass for installing and configuring Windows Server 2012. This is the second Microsoft cert managing and administering Windows Server 2012, and I will be looking to do Windows Server 2012 Advanced Services by the end of the year. The manage and administer cert should be getting by the end of September, hopefully. I also have a Microsoft Certified Solutions Associate for Windows 10 Client that I finished last September. So I've been working on it, and of course an A plus from CompTIA, and several FEMA certificates, Civil Air Patrol volunteers, diploma in aircraft electronics, and FCC general radio telephone operators license with ship radar endorsement, and of course 20 years plus, actually a little over 21 years in long distance telecommunications as a frontline field technician. So a lot of tech geeking in my background. I was a radar tech in the Air Force at 17 years old, and I've been kind of a geek ever since I first saw the Apollo moon landings in 3rd grade live in summer school. Yeah. So let's get on to the next thing here. I want to talk about a couple of story here about Volkswagen. Let's get rid of the ad here. They can work on their own. This is um, Volkswagen is swiftly coming up with an electric car lineup. They're going all electric. So they're really working hard on putting in a new battery plant. They're planning on coming out with a whole new series of electric vehicles. But the coolest story about Volkswagen of all is how Volkswagen will now convert classic Beetles, yes, classic Beetles, to electric power, do a factory conversion on classic Beetles. This looks really cool. They're getting about 150-mile range, roughly, if I remember the figures correctly. They completely replaced the engine with an electric motor, and look at the rear end. Look at that space in the back. It's basically converted into luggage. They put the battery pack in the front. They've got an electric motor in here that takes up so little room. They've been able to clear the back so it's more like you have the trunk in the back with the new electric Beetle. And this is the new electric power plant. Pretty amazing. And they completely refurb the Beetle when they do this conversion, and they also beef up the frame in all the right places to handle the conversion. So yeah, I'll have links to the article here. This is really cool. It's like my favorite story so far this month. The only thing I'm really hoping is that they added air conditioning to the classic Beetle, because in SoCal, air conditioning is really a must. And interestingly enough, on a whim, I went and Google searched what the pricing was, the average price for a classic Beetle for sale right now. I had a little bit of sticker shock. I mean, I'm used to these things. Last time I priced out used Beetles, they were, a few $100 on up to a few thousand. Well, now they're a few thousand for a pretty beat up one, $3 or $4 grand for a kind of beat up used one here and there, but a really decent restored one is running anywhere from 15 to 20, 25,000. I'm like, that's like buying a new car kind of money. What are you talking about, Willis? I mean, I was a little bit shocked. But I'm really fascinated with the classic Beetle conversion. Of course, one of my favorite vehicles so far is the new ID Buzz, the new, basically what I like to call a Beetle van. I think that's coming out in 21 or 22. So someday, maybe, that would be fun. But I sure wouldn't mind a completely restored and electrified Beetle for a commuter car, as long as it had AC. That would be a must. So, as always, all these stories that I show you will have links on the home page over at MidwesternGeekandCali.com. So you can go and check out these articles for yourself and read them through thoroughly. Love the electric Beetle story. Now I want to get over to, this is a new blog that I started, and I'm kind of hoping to do a little bit of fictional stories around this later on. It's called Getting Thirtied. There is a lot going on these days with anti-aging research. They're really making some fascinating progress in anti-aging, and the top article that you're seeing here is basically a Wikipedia article on Lazarus Long. Lazarus Long is a science fiction character written in the mid to late 20th century, right? Probably around the 60s, 50s, and 60s. um, by one of the grandmasters of science fiction, Robert Heinlein. He was like one of the big three for the 20th century. He had Isaac Asimov, who wrote like the I, Robot books and Stranger in a Strange Land. He had Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote things like Childhood's End. And then you had Robert Heinlein, who was famous for some other stuff, but the Lazarus Long stories. There were, I think, a series of short stories. One might have been a full-length novel. It's been a long time since I've read those, but they were about a guy who had a very long lifespan, and it goes in deep. It really conceptualizes a lot of the issues around having an extended lifespan. And why do I think this is anything at all? Because of some of the stories coming out in science lately. We've got one here, Humans Can Reverse Their Biological Age, shows a curious case study, inverse. This is this in several of the other stories. This one's from the Independent, Biological Age of Humans Reversed by Years and Groundbreaking Study. Um, these are some pretty reputable news sources, and they are serious. They're talking about actually having reversed the biological age of some people in a small study. Now, obviously, they're going to be designing a much larger study around this subject. So expect to see quite a bit more about this coming out in the next few years, but I think this is going to progress a lot faster than most people realize. Excuse me. So the other story that's big now, both of these things that I'm going to talk about here are really pointing back to two main sources and two main stories. But the other one that's really encouraging is first in human trial of senolytic drugs. Encouraging, small pilot study points to feasibility of larger trials in age-related diseases. So senolytic drugs, all right, what they do is they get rid of what they call zombie cells in the body. Um, Basically, as we age, we build up the stock of cells in our body that are no longer able to divide and create new cells. But they also don't die. And a lot of this is what causes a lot of the side effects of aging: gray hair, hardening of the arteries, whole host of things like metabolism slowing down, I'm sure, are because of senolytic cells, or senescent cells, I should say. Senolytics are the drugs that actually kill off the senescent cells and let youthful cells that are still able to divide take over. Basically, it's, as I understand it from the reading that I've done, it's more about the balance of youthful cells to senescent cells than it is about getting rid of all the senescent cells. You don't want to do that. You want to keep a balance that's more balanced towards the youthful cells that can divide rather than the senescent cells. But you need to keep some of the senescent cells in there because that helps keep cancer in check. So this is something that has an awful lot of promise, but it has to be approached very carefully. You can't just go wipe out all the senescent cells in the human body. You might be asking for trouble, but you can at the same time take them way lower than what they are in, say, a middle-aged person. And this is where I got the idea, what popped into my head as the title of this blog, and maybe even someday a fictional novel or something, Getting Thirtied. I want to write a story about someone who goes through this process after these things actually come to market, and they get 30'd, and they're one of the early pioneers. And by getting 30'd, I mean go from their, like being a 60-year-old and regaining the youth of, say, a 30-year-old. and what that would be like, and all the ramifications that would go on, and the disbelief maybe that some people would have, the jealousy maybe, also the benefits, being able to exercise again without breaking bones, slimming down just because your metabolism picks back up, all the things, romance, for instance. Romance is a lot better when you're in your 30s. I think in some ways, so I really think that the whole topic is fascinating. It's really getting ready to take off, and it deserves more attention than it's getting, and it really needs to be told in a story format. And I would even welcome some co-writers on some fiction like this, because I would like to hear, have other sharp minds involved in putting stories behind the concepts of this. So that's where I'm at. I'm busting it hard in school. I'm working hard teaching our vets what I have already learned. I'm trying to learn as much new stuff as I can, as fast as I can. I've got some clock pressure, some calendar pressure, I should say, in this case. Clock pressure is more like when you're getting ready in the morning. Calendar pressure is like when you've got a date that's set that you got to try to meet. Well, I've got a little bit calendar pressure going on, trying to finish up my last few classes while working, full time, really pushing, the pedal to the metal. Yeah, well, given the Volkswagen story, maybe it should be the potentiometer to the metal. But anyway, a little geek humor there. Yeah, so that's where things are at right now. I'm really hopping and skipping and jumping, and I don't really have a lot of free time to do this show as much as I love doing it. And believe me, I will continue doing this show for many years to come. It's just probably not going to be much more than monthly for this year and next, because I'm trying to barrel through a bunch of certifications this year and next year. Wrap up my original program this year and take some additional certifications above and beyond my original program next year, so that I can teach our vets more effectively. And that's where life is at for me. I hope life is going very well for all of you. I would like to thank all of you for listening, and let's pop back over to the infinity screen here. I can take the specs off. I'm kind of done reading until it's time to copy and paste some links into the new episode. And I would like to thank everyone for stopping in and watching again. Again, you can find us at MidwesternGeekInCali.com. You can find us on Twitter at MidwestGeekCali. You can find us on Facebook, Midwestern Geek in Cali, and also Midwestern Geek in Cali discussion group. I'm on YouTube, obviously. If you're watching, you're probably watching there. Hope you are. Please, if you enjoyed the stories that I'm telling and the things that I'm talking about, please hit that subscribe button. It actually helps a lot. And that's really it for the night. All right. So may there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug. Hey, hey. And happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. Peace and long life. Live long and prosper. Get 30. Hope that comes to pass in the near future for several reasons. Yeah, well, I'll be talking more about that. I will definitely be talking more about that and on the blog. And on that note, until next time, over.